If you've ever wanted to travel the world or be a digital nomad, this episode is for you. This one is all about traveling. If you don't know, now you know. I used to live abroad for a very long time, maybe 20 years, and I just got back from traveling. My dream, actually, if you know me, my dream for a very long time was to go to South America, and I fulfilled that dream. I'll make an episode about how that kind of happened. Sure, it was a lot of hard work and trying new things and just kind of taking a leap, but also I did really visualize it and I saw it happening. And it's quite crazy when I think about it. Of course, that's not the reason why, but I think it gave me clarity on exactly what I wanted and how I was going to do it. And then it happened that way, which is quite crazy. But okay, first things first, the tip of the day. I used to start with gratitude. Hopefully you're doing that now anyways. I'm still trying to work on that in the morning. Like I wake up and I have something on my bedside table that reminds me, smile, be grateful. And then I do that. But here, the tip of the day is, I shared this on another short video, is learn how to change your state when you want. Like on demand. It's a kind of a pretty cool superpower, is to just, at least I'm talking even to myself, is sometimes it's difficult to just stop what you're doing. Maybe you're in the middle of something or you're really struggling or you're having a difficult time doing whatever. Just leave it. Walk away. Go change your state. Do 25 jumping jacks. Do some push-ups. Go for a quick 10-minute walk. This morning I took a cold shower. I hadn't done that in so long because I had done it for like 500 days in a row. And I learned to, when I stopped doing it, I was so happy to stop doing it. I'm not going to lie. And I realized that, is it really worth it to do it if you dread it all the time? That's kind of an argument I have with myself, is it made me so resilient to like, oh yeah, I'll just go do that. I don't know if it was the cold shower or just repetition of like, oh, I'll do that. And then just telling myself I'll do whatever. If it's difficult, it doesn't matter. If it's scary, it doesn't matter. Maybe it was this going on video or making the shorts. It could have been this combination, but I think the cold showers had something to do with it, where I was like, oh, yeah, it can't be worse than a cold shower. Sure, I'll do that. However, if it's really, really terrible, maybe you shouldn't do it all the time. So my kind of tip of the day was learn to use things as tools. So using a cold shower on a day where you're sluggish and you're like, hey, let me just use this and hop in there. I know for sure I will feel better, even though it's difficult. And maybe you're kind of like geared up for it because it's a surprise. Anyways, that was kind of the tip of the day. And another thing was I included that in like this journaling. I used to force myself to journal all the time. And I know people do that in the self-improvement space. However, I found a new way to use it as a tool. I just was like, hey, this is a problem. And I would journal about it. And it's amazing kind of how the answers come out when you use different formats and you learn about yourself. I think this is one of the reasons why I do love coming on video and sharing this, is like I'm a verbal processor. Is that kind of, I like to talk through things because I think a lot in my head. So it's kind of nice to get that all out. And if I write it down, yeah, it's actually, writing is phenomenal also. Highly recommend it to everybody. But yeah, okay, let's get into it. I'm trying not to ramble on too much, and I want to make these really, really super useful. I have to start with this. In the first little episode or video, whatever we're calling these things, I'm calling it a podcast. I said I'm going to do a podcast every single day for 30 days. However, I ran into a slight problem. I didn't realize that these are now videos. I guess I realized that I was recording it, but I didn't realize that not all of them I could just record it and then post it. I don't want to do that. I want to kind of slow down a little bit and focus on quality as well. Like quantity is great, just knocking them out for 30 days. I think there's a lot to be learned in that. Like I'm going to write every day for 30 days because I have a lot to say, and that will kind of help in my writing. But I think for things like this with the videos, it's important to slow down a little bit and focus on the quality. And I want to learn how to video edit for a long time now anyway. So I'm going to try that in Final Cut Pro, and we'll see how that journey works out. So yeah, sometimes you can say things and maybe retract a little bit. I thought I was just going to be doing the audios and posting them, but now it's video format. So some of these, the one I made about 23 things you must have when you travel, I'm super excited about that. But I realize if I just post it, it might be kind of boring because I have these all 23 different things and I talk about it and I might want to put some things up on the screen. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, for those of you that don't know, I traveled for 10 months in South America. I was in Colombia, Medellin, first for 6 weeks, and then I went to Brazil for 3 months, 2 months in Rio during Carnival. Hey, maybe I'll make some videos on that. I don't know if I can. I do have some footage, so I kind of want to compile all that into a video as well. I wish I took more videos during that time. Anyways, I was in Brazil, and then I was in Rio, then I went to a place called Florianopolis, which was like a beach town. And then a really, really, really dangerous place, Porto Alegre. Sorry, Mom. It's like one of the most dangerous places in the world, if you look it up, to get a tattoo. Excuse me. Let me drink some water. So, yeah, I did that. Hey, we're live. I'm just going to post this one. So, then I went to Buenos Aires, Argentina. Then I went over to Santiago, Chile, and to Mendoza, Argentina, and then I did some traveling after Santiago because this is what the episode is about. I hated digital nomad life, and I'm going to explain why. I just wanted you to know kind of where I went. And then the last month of August plus a week, I did the northern part of Chile into Peru to Ecuador, back to Peru, and then to Mexico for a little bit. So I can make videos on each of those. I do have footage from those places, and that goes back into wanting to edit. But I just wanted to talk quickly about digital nomad life, and don't believe everything you see online. I'm trying to be a voice of honesty here because I know a lot of my listeners and a lot of people who know me love to travel. And it's really easy to get pulled into the narrative of like, yes, other places in the world are amazing and cool, and travel is awesome. It's a huge part of my life, and it always will be. And digital nomad life looks amazing. I started posting content again, and this is kind of what spawned it. Is I just see these videos of like, oh, Medellin, Colombia is the new hotspot for digital nomads. It's amazing. And I think this is what changes. When I watched that 10 months ago, I was like, oh, so cool. And now that I lived there for 6 weeks, I realize who these people are and where they are. Like, for example, there is this little bubble called El Poblado in Medellin. And it's this kind of like, it's a bubble. You know what a bubble is. It has all the restaurants. It has fancy cafes. It has good food. And it's not Colombia. Let me tell you that right now. It is not. Anyone who tells you it is, it drives me nuts. The people who go there, mostly foreigners, and then the Colombians that do go there are Colombians that speak English, maybe have a little bit more money to spend because it's super expensive, because digital nomads drive the prices up in these places. And then there is another place called Laureles. And I went there instead of going to the bubble, and that is supposed to be a little less bubbly, but it still is a bubble. I'm aware of that. It still has some culture. It's got one of the most famous salsa bars in the world there, or at least in Medellin. You know, things like that. It had street food. It had a market, like places I went to shop and to eat. But also, it's dangerous, right? Again, I don't want to be the one to preach danger. I don't know if it's dangerous. Nothing happened to me. But everybody there keeps telling you this over and over. I heard it 1,000 times in Colombia, in Medellin especially. There were news reports of foreigners getting robbed and killed. In Brazil, in Rio especially, it came up all the time. And I met some people towards the end who were just like, yeah, we got robbed by 4 guys in an alley. We took a wrong turn. And it was just like, it's just part of our conversation. And then we kind of moved on to the next part. So I guess there are some realities that don't get talked about a lot. And if they do get talked about, it's the main focus, right? Like foreigners dying because of this drug called scopolamine. But also there is the beautiful side where there are beautiful people and good conversations and good food. Although in Colombia, I don't know if the food was that great. I heard a guy on social media would be like, the food is amazing in Medellin. Yeah, because you're in El Poblado going to all of the upscale restaurants. Not real Colombian food. So I guess, this is me being a little cynical and critical. I'm trying to embrace more of that in my side and try to find a balance with that, because I was very cynical when I was younger, and then I became not cynical at all. I was trying to be nice to everybody, and now I'm trying to find a nice balance where sometimes some people suck and some things do suck sometimes. And I kind of came up with these 4 categories of like digital nomad life is somebody or a couple who lives in a place, let's say, I would say 6 weeks to like 3 or 4 months. That puts you in the range. We'll say a month to 4 months. Put you in my mind, a digital nomad type of person. So you're going to a place, you're getting to know it a little bit, you're setting up a bit of a routine, you're getting hopefully a gym, you're finding your cafes, and then you're leaving to go to the next place. And I see this is best for single people not looking for a relationship and unmarried or married couples without kids. This is possible, and this is why I'll get to why I hate it in a second. And then you have expats. I guess I was an expat, and I saw that as people who work in a location, like I was a teacher in Seoul for a while, a teacher in China, and a teacher in Hong Kong, and I was an expat. I lived there. Like, that was my life. I was in Hong Kong for 5 years. That was my life. I had my friend groups. I had the places I went to. Everything was just, it becomes life. Okay. And then that is somebody who's working there, or real entrepreneurs. I guess there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there now, or freelancers, and I don't know if the reality is so true. They're calling them entrepreneurs now. I don't know. Met some. And then you have the next group, the third group, I would call retirees. And those are people, obviously, who have just retired. Those some in Mexico I saw. I know a lot of retirees are going to Costa Rica, and who knows, maybe even more in different parts in Asia. I haven't been there in a while. Simple. Retired, go live somewhere else. Next, you have the classic, the backpackers. I think early 20s, getting out of university, into your 30s even. And then you also have some backpackers who are retired people. So there's kind of a blend in that group as well. I think they all have their pros and cons. I can talk to backpacker life. I did that for a year when I was younger, and then I did it this last month because I was just kind of tired with digital nomad life. But I have this kind of process in my brain where I have to finish something. It is a curse and a blessing, more of a blessing, to be honest. But I had this thing, I had to finish South America. I had this plan. I knew exactly where I was going to go. It's funny, people ask, like, what are you going to do next? I'm like, I don't know, we'll see. But no, I had the plan. It was set. I did exactly what I planned for the last 10 months, although it was supposed to be a year, and I was supposed to live in Lima for a couple months. That was the only thing that changed. I just didn't like digital nomad life. So there is that. That's fun, right? It has its merits. You could go see some of the world, and I think I'm embracing that a little bit more, of like having a home base, and then just going off for a week or a month and kind of backpacking around. Super simple. Retired, I don't know. Expats, that's also an interesting life. I think you can start a family, but I think expats turns into, that just becomes your life, right? So it ends up not being so different as it is perceived to be, right? Like, I'm sure people were like, hey, how was Hong Kong? It's crazy, right? One of the craziest cities in the world, if not the craziest city in the world. But it also just becomes life. Like, it's just the way our brain works. It adapts to everything. But here's why I don't like digital nomad life, and I don't recommend it for anybody, really. I don't want to say it's lonely, but it is. And here's why I think it is definitively lonely, and it just will always be. Some people might argue this and be like, well, you can meet lots of people and create communities, but you leave. That's the principle of a digital nomad, is eventually you're going to leave that place. Let's say you even stay for 6 months. Max, maybe you stay for a year. You still have the intention of leaving. And anytime you leave a friend group, sure, you'll stay in touch. Sure, you'll WhatsApp. Sure, you'll message or stay in touch on social media. It's not the same. And digital nomad life becomes lonely in that sense if you keep moving from place to place. And I think this is just my argument against the digital nomad narrative that I was so excited for. And it just didn't pan out to be what I thought it was going to be because of that. You kind of get into this place. If you don't like it, easy, leave. Or you give it a chance and you stay. Like, I loved Rio. I'm eventually going back there. Who knows? I might even stay for a long time and become, an expat, somebody who lives there for a while. But with a digital nomad life, you plan to go to different places and move around. Sure, the freedom is great, but you can have freedom anywhere you go with that. And that just becomes the problem, is you get into this kind of like, oh, I like this place, I have a gym, a routine, and then you're going to go and leave, and you just have to pack up. You have to find another place. You have to do it again. And of course, I'm not saying this isn't for everybody. Some people love it. I met some people who love the digital nomad life, and they like the freedom. I met somebody who was in Buenos Aires, and they just loved Buenos Aires. They planned to stay for a month, and they stayed longer. I went to Santiago. I was only going to stay 1 month, but I ended up staying longer. So it has its pros and cons. But at the end of the day, I would say it just has this, you're not going to be there for very long. And then, is that a good thing? Of course, if you're not looking for anything long term, great. If you're just looking to hop around, you're young, you want to hop around for a couple years and see different places, sure. But I also feel that as well, right? Like, you have all these digital nomad hubs like Medellin, I know Bali, Chiang Mai, and from my experience, I feel like they're not real. Like I said, with expat life, it becomes your life, right? Like, I lived in Hong Kong for 5 years, and then that became life. Hong Kong was life. And I feel like because of these like fake bubbles, you go to Bali, and then Bali is just this immediate bubble. It becomes life immediately. You find the cafes, you find where everyone else is going, you find people who speak English most likely, or your language, and then it's so quickly this bubble, and you come under this illusion of like you're living in this place. Like, you're not really in Indonesia. You're definitely not. And in Chiang Mai, I don't know, I haven't been there since 2007. I can assure you, you're not really in like Thailand in certain parts of it. So yeah, I think it's for some people who want to give it a try, but I guess I'll stop it there. I don't want to ramble on for too long. But the idea was, don't believe everything you see on social media. Digital nomad life really isn't as awesome as it sounds. And I think there are better ways to really travel better and to go see a place and then still come back to a home base. And I could rant on, maybe I'll make another video about that, is travel. Holy shit. I know I'm not supposed to swear anymore, but oh my God, what happened to travel? Everything has like guardrails and bumpers on it. It's so like... I don't know. It felt very tour-y. Maybe it was just in South America. But I felt like when I lived in Southeast Asia, I remember they had this like floating river where you would go down a tube in Laos, and you'd swing off these swings that were like these just wooden swings, like 15 meters up, and you would just swing, and you could like flip or fall, and people were drinking, and you would just fall into the river. Maybe it's a good thing that doesn't exist anymore. However, we went so far in the other direction, at least from what I saw, where everything is a tour, everything is so well packaged and like simple and beautiful. And again, you don't get to see the real thing. And I could go on again for hours of how slow shit is, and it shouldn't be. I keep coming back to this like Uni salt flats in Bolivia. It's beautiful, don't get me wrong. So glad I went to go see it. However, I could have done it in an hour, but they turn it into an 8-hour full day kind of experience. It's things like that are just so drawn out. But yeah, so maybe that the next video I kind of go on feel for these of what comes up and what I want to talk about. But yeah, the travel experience these days, if you're watching this and you're traveling somewhere, please leave a comment. Like, I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on digital nomad life. Why, if you like it, why? Really, why? Try to convince me, or just don't even try to convince me. Just share your thoughts. And what don't you like about it? And yeah, what happened to travel these days? Somebody, please let me know. If you're enjoying these, I'm still going to keep making them. Like I said, hopefully, or definitely, the quality is going to be going up. I'm going to start editing the videos in Final Cut Pro. I'll have one coming tomorrow or the next day about 23 things you need to bring when you travel. Press like if you like it. Leave a comment. Subscribe. I never thought I would be one of these guys like, hey, subscribe to my channel. I don't know. Subscribe if you want. Don't subscribe if you don't want. I don't know. I don't really give a shit. It would be cool, though. It's nice to share information. And I realize that, too. Nobody's going to like or subscribe unless they really like or want to subscribe to your channel. So what's the point in really asking? So we'll call it a friendly reminder. Anyways, I will see you later. Remember, yeah, Travel only because you want to, and the way you want to. See you later.